Good afternoon, and after a 2-week hiatus, welcome back to the RealSport Wrestling Show. I'm Gus Samuel, and I'm joined by my special guest co-host, Jeremy Walker.
Hi.
So, welcome to the RealSport Wrestling Show. For our regular viewers, we have mixed things up a little bit. We're currently with a one-camera setup. Let us know in the comments below what you think of our new setup, and also definitely make sure you're using that comment section to ask us all kinds of questions. We'll do our best to go through them all. But first, like I said, it's been 2 weeks since we've been on, so there's a lot to discuss, including SummerSlam, TakeOver Brooklyn 3, lots to talk about. So before we go on to this week, I'm going to jump back to that, and I'm going to ask with the most important question of all. Did you enjoy SummerSlam this year?
I enjoyed the start of it, and it kind of tailed off halfway through, I think. But it needed work, sure.
Yeah, I definitely thought it was a quite disappointing show. It had so much potential, but it did seem that there was a lot of burying in new talent. You know, we had Randy Orton taking all of 9 seconds to defeat Rusev. We had Baron Corbin. We'll talk about Baron Corbin later because God knows what's happening with him. But it just seemed like what's meant to be, the Smarks WrestleMania. It didn't really feel like it.
No, it didn't at all. No. And SummerSlam is usually one of the best on the calendar, sure. There's a reason. Hours, more quality, more action.
No, there was a lot of issues. It's funny that what I think for many people, including myself, the match of the night was on the pre-show, which was the New Day and the Usos. Both the tag team matches really brought it. SmackDown and Raw. Beyond that, and the main event, there wasn't really, I think, that there was much worthwhile watching.
No, and the cruiserweight match was wasted on the pre-show. I've got a real problem with the way that they're using the cruiserweight pre-show. But no, other than that, there wasn't. I know it's been a few weeks now, but there isn't anything that stands out from SummerSlam other than they had a good thing going with the championships changing hands all the way through.
Oh, yeah.
And then they broke that trend, and I think it was a real shame. It would have been nice if every single title had changed hands at SummerSlam. It would have been something unique.
It definitely would have been unique. I think I'm fine with the Universal title staying on Brock, but everything else would have been nice to change, particularly to have Jinder lose that belt.
Yes, yeah. I think it was time for Jinder to lose the WWE Championship, and it was the right person. I'm hoping there is a bigger plan there and that it will go to Shinsuke eventually.
I think it does tie into the Corbin thing. A lot of people were predicting that you'd have Shinsuke win just to be cashing on by Corbin. Obviously, since Corbin had lost his Money in the Bank, I do wonder if there was a last-minute change of plans.
Possibly, yeah. Because going into SummerSlam, I wasn't particularly mad at the Corbin cash-in and loss. I thought that would actually help him in the long run. But
it hasn't as yet.
They haven't actually followed through with it, so perhaps not.
Yeah, I think if it would have led to Corbin brutalizing Cena, it would have made sense. But it didn't. Cena very clearly didn't have any desire to push Baron over. And, putting JBL's hat on his head in the middle of the match, the fact that, you had John Cena in the opening match of SummerSlam, it seemed like it was just an afterthought.
Do you think that since coming back, Cena has just treated everything like a bit of a joke?
It's a good question. Yeah, we're going to discuss later on that incredible section segment between him and Roman Reigns, but I do think he's taking it a bit more lighthearted. I think that's fine. I think it's something the WWE don't want to go too far into, but acknowledging that fourth wall and what's beyond it isn't a bad thing. I think it's the way to keep people a bit more invested and engaged. It depends, if people have the opportunity to rise up to it, and that's the main thing, If Corbin was better on the mic, then actually Cena coming at him for Corbin to come back could have been a career maker.
Yeah.
If Roman Reigns hadn't forgotten his lines, then he might have come up looking better than he did. I think Cena is having more fun, and he is challenging some of the guys to step up more. Definitely. But and he referenced it last week when you think about Kevin Owens' debut on the main roster.
Yeah.
That one is an example of Cena basically laying down the gauntlet and letting talent rise to the top. So I'm fine with him being jokey, and it's on some of those guys to grab brass ring, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, you're right in terms of the Kevin Owens, and who had a big part in establishing AJ Styles as a WWE superstar rather than just an all-around great wrestler he was. I think it might be a step too far with, as you say, the cowboy hat in the middle of the match and some of the comments that were made during that promo, but I'll wait.
Fair play. I'm going to apologise to the audience right now. I do have a little bit of a cough, so see me drinking my drink. I'm not being rude. I'm just sort of, what's the word? Soothing my throat. Let's talk about the other big event from that weekend, which was TakeOver Brooklyn 3. Did you watch?
I did watch TakeOver Brooklyn, yeah. I really enjoyed it.
A bit closer. Okay.
So, let's move that around. As usual, it was the highlight of the weekend.
Yeah.
It always is. We've come to expect it from TakeOver. Hard to pick a favourite match, really.
I saw a really, really interesting statistic that Authors of Pain were the only real homegrown NXT talents on that card. Everyone else were indie stars that came in.
Yeah, now that I think about it, yeah, you're right, yeah.
Yeah, which is, well, I mean, it depends what you count Drew McIntyre, because technically he has been in WWE before, but I would say, it was the indies that really seasoned.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he's a different guy than the one that came through developmental all those years ago. I'm glad he's champion. I think it was the right move. Somebody had to take it from Rude. It was long overdue, and McIntyre's the right guy. I think he can take NXT forward into the next phase, I suppose, into the next few months.
How about that the post-match beatdown, though?
That was good. I mean, I am not familiar with those talent at all. So for me, it was just interesting to have fresh new people come in and much smaller guys than McIntyre come in and dominate him, and it set a tone for what we're going to see in the next few months. I'm really keen.
See, now that's really interesting to me, because now I'm familiar with some of their work. Adam Cole more than Red Dragon or Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly. I don't know if they're keeping the name in NXT or not, but I am familiar with all three of their works to some extent. So as someone who isn't, what are your feelings about them? You already said they looked pretty intimidating for small guys, but are they people you feel immediately invested in? Like, who are these guys, or are you like, I'm not really sure what's going on here? Or
yeah, that's an interesting question, actually. Adam Cole had no familiarity with him whatsoever. I'd seen, Adam Cole baby banded around, but that was the extent of my knowledge on him. He seems to have the WWE look. He has a resemblance to several superstars that have come through in the past. He looks a lot like a love child of Triple H and Drew McIntyre when you look at it. But yeah, I mean, haven't seen a whole lot of him so far. The more we see him in the ring is when I'll make a better impression of him. But I've heard nothing but good things.
Well, I'm really excited to see what they do. Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly are really good wrestlers. If you've ever get a chance to watch last year's Bowler, on the first night, they had a great match together with Dalton Castle versus the Young Bucks and Adam Cole. Okay. So, they're more known, I think, as a bit more sort of technical wrestling. I don't know if you're familiar with Dalton Castle, but
I'm not, no. The name rings a bell, but...
So, his gimmick's the Party Peacock. He's very flamboyant, whereas he's always accompanied by what he calls his boys, which are always, wrestlers in very small pants, kind of fanning him with
groupies,
things.
Basically. Male
kind
groupies.
It's kind of very like ancient Greek, sort of the emperor leaning back, being fawned over by the boys. So it's sort of taking that gimmick, and it's kind of gimmick which is often played as heels, but he plays it as a face and plays it really well. Okay. So in this event, they had Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish dressing up as the boys, and the commentators pretending not to know who they are until halfway through the match. Okay. And just so great comedic wrestling, great range, but they're really technically minded as well. Adam Cole was, until recently, a member of the Bullet Club, member of the Super Click, along with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. So, he is a very good wrestler. He is one of these slightly smaller, slightly more able to do quite a bit of more of the aerial stuff. Loves himself a super kick. It's going to be really interesting to see how that style is going to mesh with Drew McIntyre. But we're going to get on NXT tonight, the first show at Full Sail since Brooklyn. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that develops.
Yeah, and I'm looking even further forward again. I'm interested to see what happens with them with an eventual main roster debut, and whether they will actually make a main roster debut or whether they will transition into 205 Live, what will fit better? That's going to be quite interesting.
That is, and we will talk more about 205 Live. But I'm going to turn to some of the questions that we've had. Thank you for those who've asked questions so far. So we had one person ask, what do we see for Bobby Roode now that he lost at NXT and has been called up to the main roster? How do we see him fitting in on SmackDown?
It's a good question. And I'm not 100% sure how they want to use him. He's clearly arrived as a face, which he can do. He's quite versatile. But it's a shame to not have a heel Bobby Roode in that group of stars on SmackDown. You've got Owens and you've got Corbin, but other than that, you haven't really got any strong kind of undercard heels. They're not going to put Bobby straight into the title picture.
No.
So in the undercard, it would have been good to have Bobby Roode as a heel, I think.
I excuse me. I am a little bit worried. Obviously, the fact that he had the NXT Championship belt should bode well.
Yeah.
But I look and see Ty Dillinger's complete non-use on SmackDown, and I do worry, with 2 hours a week, could Bobby Roode get lost in the shuffle? And if he doesn't, will someone else be pushed out instead?
Yeah, well, we've already seen other people being pushed out as a result. Mike Bennett has already disappeared into the ether, other than jobbing out this week.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is that concern. I think the fact that Bobby Roode is such a strong talent and that he's quickly become one of Triple H's boys, I think he'll be okay. It really depends on what creative have for him.
Who would you like to see as his first proper feud on the main roster?
I would like... don't know about first feud. I'd like to see him go back into a feud with Shinsuke Nakamura. I think there was more to be done there. Again, it comes back to finding a heel to put him against. Maybe Owens, once he's done with the Shane feud. It could be a case that he will want to push someone into another direction for Bobby Roode. And Kevin Owens could be that strong person. Bobby Roode may take exception to the way that Kevin Owens acts. And the storyline could be built around that, perhaps.
I think part of the problem is Bobby Roode as a heel, obviously his primary thing is his cockiness. And in many ways, that's what Kevin Owens does best as a heel. And then you do sort of wonder, what's this for? If that's, having two kind of good talking cocky heels in the same roster, does that work? I mean, the problem with SmackDown really is sometimes it seems too deep and sometimes it seems too shallow.
Yes. Yeah.
If they wanted to play him as a heel, Sami Zayn would make a great first feud. But as a face, I'm not sure who there is.
No. When you ask me who a good feud would be as a face, see really anybody to take it to the level, establish the main roster. It's going to be tough to do.
That gatekeeper role is something which you would think Dolph Ziggler should be doing, and we need to see what his repackaging comes out as. You could almost see, obviously the past two promos has basically been threatening to rip off all other sorts of gimmicks.
Yeah.
I would love him to debut next week a gimmick where just ripping off Bobby Roode. Having seen how over Roode is at 2 weeks of doing that thing, I'd love him to come out as a Bobby Roode rip.
Yeah, that could be the direction they're going with Ziggler. He's spoken a lot about people like Elias and how he could just parody other people to get him over. So maybe that could be the course for him, right? Bobby Roode could be the person to take exception. Mock for it.
Could be. I mean, yeah, outside of that, I'm not sure who else there really could be that could do that job. So we talked a bit about SmackDown. Let's talk a bit about Raw. We're gonna get to the Reigns Cena stuff shortly, but first, I thought it was a really weird Brock Lesnar appearance this week. It was almost like if you've got Brock there, you would want to do more with him. Especially
when I'm not sure how his re-contracting worked out, but you assume that he still has limited dates in the year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is a bit strange. He's been there so consistently, and they haven't really used it very much. It does beg a belief what they're thinking.
Yeah, especially, there's no Braun Strowman on the show either this week. No. So, and to some degree it makes sense. It's a match I think everyone is really, really looking forward to seeing. And you don't want to, give away too much. It's something WWE do too much is give away a lot of the matches before the matches, as it were.
Yeah. It's something SmackDown have been guilty of, especially.
Absolutely. But, I'm even thinking in the lead up to the SummerSlam main event, which was, by the way, phenomenal.
Yes.
It was everything wrestling should be in terms of just being an absolute freak show.
Yeah.
Which was great. But in the lead up to that, we had that triple threat match between everyone except Brock, which, because Brock was carried out in a stretcher for part of the match, ended up being half the match anyway.
Yeah. And I did have a little bit of a problem with that. Not Brock being taken away on the stretcher, but I felt like it took away from how hard the other guys were. From a purely kayfabe point of view, that Brock Lesnar got to go and have a rest for half an hour and rejoin the match whenever he wanted. That was a bit much. But other than that, I agree, the match.
Absolutely. Now, so as I mentioned earlier, this is a brand new setup, so you might notice we are mixing things up. I'm going to give you this microphone. I think it might give you a better angle.
Okay.
Stop talking to. And we'll see how that one works. You know what? Actually, pass me that one number. There we go. And now that should be working a bit better. There we go.
Perfect.
So the one does the live TV, and you get to see how the sausage is made. So yeah, it's it's good that we're getting Brock Braun this early. In some ways, it's keeping that interest high. But do you think it's a bit of a waste having on a B show?
It is, when I've kind of got in the back of my mind that I know where it's going afterwards. And you've got the John Cena Roman Reigns thing going on at the same time. Probably going to end up with Roman Reigns coming out on the winning end of that. And it's just setting up. I'm not sure whether it will be Braun or Brock, but you would assume Braun for Roman Reigns, who is just going to crush, bury whoever it is that comes through that match, leading into the Royal Rumble and into WrestleMania. So I like that we're getting Braun Brock. That's a match that needs to happen. It's a match that people will want to see. I want to see it. But what happens afterwards, big concern.
So we talked about this just before we started the show. We talked about pyro and the lack of pyro in the show. So I was going to say, now you said you don't really miss the pyro.
I don't miss it, no.
I don't in most cases, but Brock's entrance is the one exception. When he does the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's the one time I feel it's missing.
I haven't really been so keen on Brock's pyro since he came back. I really liked the ring post pyro when on his original run. Haven't been doing so much of that. I wasn't so keen on the top of the ramp.
No.
Now it doesn't do it.
Because I think the looks silly without it. It made sense to me when it was like setting off the pyro, but now that it's just doing nothing.
Yeah. I liked on jumping onto the ring apron. I liked that it was kind of his impact set off the pyro, and it came from a time when that ring post pyro was quite prominent.
Yeah,
Kane doing it all the time as well, so it just fit. But yeah, you're right. There are certain superstars that it's lacking now without, but people like Sheamus, you couldn't even see his pyro.
Yeah,
need it. Same with AJ Styles. There was no visible pyro. It was just the noise.
Yeah,
if they were really that bothered.
Yeah, yeah, very true. The one thing which surprised me was they said they were dialing it back, but I would have thought SummerSlam they would have had pyro in for it. I'd have thought if there's going to be for anything, well, Mania 1, but after that it would be SummerSlam. But even SummerSlam didn't have pyro.
Yeah, that said, when I said I didn't miss the pyro, I suppose the only place I do miss it is at the beginning of a pay-per-view. I feel like that really set the tone for the whole event.
Yeah.
It was quite strange to not start a SummerSlam massive set of explosion.
I mean, entrances for pay-per-views anyway, I think is really been hit hard by, I guess, WWE trying to save money. But I remember back in the day when every single pay-per-view had its own custom entrance ramp.
Yeah.
Remember the original Backlash where you had these massive swinging scythes?
Yeah, that was one of the first pay-per-view events I saw live. It's Backlash 2000 with the swinging sets.
Yeah.
It became such a prominent part of the hardcore title. Really good. And I was thinking the same myself the other day, that it's really lazy. And I suppose it is a cost-cutting measure, but it's lazy that everything is the same.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question though, in terms of the set. Do you have as big a problem as I do with the fact that SmackDown set tapers out than curves?
Yes. I mean, I do, but on the other hand, it's provided some great unintentional comedy.
Yeah, it has. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's for that reason that I don't really like it.
Yeah, it does look weird. It's not as good, as... And it's always rose tinted glasses, but the original SmackDown, the oval shaped one, that was just so different. And it does look a bit more generic, and it is a shame. But I guess WWE are trying to cut corners wherever it is.
Things are, I don't think it's going.
So let's see. Do we have any other questions? Yes, we have one, which is, do we feel that Brock versus Braun could be overshadowed by Roman versus John Cena?
If we don't see much of Brock and Braun on Raw leading up to the pay-per-view, yes. If we continue to build, I don't think so. The Roman Reigns and John Cena match is an interesting setup in that usually if you have a match of that kind of caliber, you know who the face or the heel is.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got two guys who are both simultaneously to different sectors of the fandom. So I'm not sure who that match really appeals to. Who is it that they want to enjoy that match is the big question. So all of the audience will enjoy the Brock Braun match. Some of the audience will enjoy the Roman and Cena match. So no, I
think that's fair.
Sorry.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
So let's talk about John Cena and Roman Reigns now. Firstly, that segment was so good.
It was interesting. Yeah. It would have been better if Roman hadn't piled up in the middle and remembered his lines. John Cena recovered it.
I agreed, but the thing is that unintentional as it might be, it played into what they were trying to do so much anyway. I think it strengthened it.
Yeah. It didn't hurt too much, but considering it's going to have top billing, you feel like Roman should have made a bit more effort to have that ready.
So, I think he did get thrown by John Cena ad-libbing, saying, oh well, they say Kurt Angle sucks it as well. So I did think that threw him, but nonetheless, firstly, it shows how great on the mic John Cena is.
Yeah, I don't think that was ever in question, really. He's got his deriders for sure, but there's no doubting that John Cena knows what he's doing with a microphone.
Absolutely. But the other thing is, and it depends where it goes, but it feels it's the right time to turn him heel. And I know we've said that in the past. I do.
Who? Cena or?
No, Reigns.
Reigns, yeah, okay.
I know we've said that in the past, but the thing is, it works out from a timing perspective. In that, John Cena's going away from WWE after No Mercy to shoot the new Transformers movie.
Okay.
What better way to write him off than at the hands of a savage beating by Roman Reigns?
I agree. Any opportunity to turn Roman Reigns heel is a good opportunity. There have been many, many squandered in the past. You're right, it would be a great opportunity. Don't think they're going to do it.
So on this note, I'm going to bring in an article you wrote quite a few months ago.
Yeah.
Which was your call to boycott Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
Do you still boycott Roman Reigns?
I don't. And the reason being is that I called for a revolution. It's only a revolution if other people get involved. But it was quite interesting with the Miz's promo the other day, who basically was saying, if you don't like Roman Reigns, just stop watching him. And he was basically preaching from my choir. The main problem that the boycott Reigns kind of hashtag had was that I got a lot of people who were just like, no, we're just boo him. That will let people know that we don't like him. Not in this kind of form of entertainment where, they are specifically targeting your cheers and your boos. If you don't want to see this character, if you want this character to change, you need to stay silent. You need to turn your back on the ring if you're there live and let the WWE know that you're just not interested in this character in its current form. So from that standpoint, no, it wasn't working. So I moved on from the boycott, but still I have those strong feelings about Roman Reigns.
Well, I think there's no question that booing doesn't work. It's something which earlier on this year we had our wrestling editor, Patches Chance, interviewed Ethan Carter III from Impact. And it was just after he had turned from face back to heel.
Right.
And he asked the question, do you prefer playing face? Do you prefer playing heel? And EC3 said, as long as I get a reaction, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
As long, the silence is the one thing you don't want as a wrestler. As long as you're getting any kind of reaction, you're doing your job.
Yeah. I remember reading an interview, or it might have been a shoot interview, I'm not sure, years ago with Bubba Ray Dudley. And he was talking about why his singles run in WWE the first time around didn't work. And it was just that. It was crickets. It wasn't that people didn't like the way his character was going. It's nobody cared. And it was the boring chant from that kind of era, 2003, 2004.
Yeah.
Was a real killer for WWE.
And I think the WWE have put more fuel to the fire of the idea that he's not just the next corporate face. I mean, backing that ambulance with Braun Strowman into a truck, it's very hard to sell this guy's a white meat baby face after that.
Yeah, you talk about a good opportunity to turn someone heel. That was it. That's the main problem I have with Roman Reigns and most of how WWE handle things at the moment. Everything is just okay, whereas with a few little tweaks and some effort, it could be so much better. It's not that I hate Roman Reigns. I don't have any kind of problem with the guy. He's all right at what he does. He's okay on the mic when he remembers his lines. But he could be so much better.
Yeah,
given the right opportunities. But WWE don't want it. He said he didn't want it, and on Chris Jericho's podcast,
and how people are still booing. So
yeah, he still sells merchandise. And he's still got the 3-year-old, the 10-year-old girl audience screaming for him. So.
There you go. So, once you wrote that article, you got invited onto a very special podcast.
I did.
Featuring one of the, probably, if not the most controversial, probably top 5 most controversial wrestlers in wrestling history.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, so you went onto the Vince Russo podcast.
I did.
What was that experience like?
It was surreal, actually. That whole period in my life was quite surreal. As you know, I'd just come off breaking my leg. So I was sat on my couch and I wrote the Roman Reigns article and had a lot of time to devote into causing a stir with that, and that got interest from Vince Russo of all people. And I thought I was going on the Vince Russo podcast to basically be slated for an hour and be in a shouting match with Vince Russo, but it was so opposite from what I was expecting. And people have got their opinions about Vince Russo, say what you like about him, but it was one of the most interesting experiences of my life to expect to go on there for a fight and him just pretty much agree with everything I was saying the whole time.
He called you bro a lot.
He calls everybody bro a lot, yeah.
He does.
I think if you were really looking to get drunk, a drinking game listening to that podcast and
every time he says bro, having a shot, that will not be healthy for you. Do you still stay in touch with Vince Russo?
Unfortunately not, no. He mentioned that perhaps a follow-up later down the line, and I plan on very soon writing a follow-up to the Roman Reigns article.
Wait till after No Mercy, just in case he turns heel there.
Yeah.
Or do it the week leading up to it, just in case then you can prove you were right afterwards.
Yeah. Well, I'll put the groundwork in and see how we go with the build. Yeah.
Awesome. So, before we move on to SmackDown, actually, no, there's 2 topics we've got to talk about the Raw. So one, very brief one, and it's something which I don't think got enough people talking about it. In the Battle Royale for the shot at the Intercontinental title,
Mm.
we had a tease of Finn Balor uniting with Gallows and Anderson. It was there for a second, but they Finn joined in to eliminate the Big Show with them two, and then Carl Anderson put up the 2-sweet, and then Finn Balor got attacked before he could react.
Yeah.
But that tease had me so excited.
Yeah, get used to that tease, because I think that's as far as it's ever going to get.
I really hope not.
Yeah. They don't know what to do with Finn at the moment.
Yeah.
Why not put him in a Bullet Club style stable with the two Bullet Club guys? But who knows what WWE are thinking? It's probably not going to happen. They seem to be more content to troll their fan base, especially that indie internet fan base, more than they are to appease them at the moment.
Absolutely. He's
Take a drink. Yeah. The thing about Finn Balor at the moment is they still don't want to let go of the Bray Wyatt rivalry, do they?
Which is stupid, because what do you do once he's beaten Bray as the Demon?
Yeah.
Surely that's the ultimate, the ultimate progression of that feud.
Unless the Demon character that we saw at SummerSlam was fairly similar to the others that we'd seen in the past. So maybe they want to do it again and have Finn go to the next level with that Demon character. Perhaps. I don't know.
Maybe they go the route of Bray saying, "You can't defeat me out of the Demon."
Could be.
Who knows? But it's
lame. But
it would be lame. But that means it's probably going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's a real shame to me, the fact that they don't know what to do with Finn. Now, we had an interesting point by one of our viewers. A year and a day after Finn Balor had to relinquish the Universal title, came Asuka having to relinquish her title for breaking a collarbone.
Mm.
So let's talk about that briefly. Asuka broke a collarbone, handing back the title, but it made it clear.
Has she broken her collarbone?
Has
she?
In kayfabe terms, certainly.
Yeah.
But whether it's real or not, it looks like she is heading up to the main roster.
Yes.
Which brand do you reckon she's better suited to?
I think SmackDown needs her more, but I'm not sure that there's the talent base to sustain Asuka on SmackDown. She's got, if she goes up as a heel as she is now, she's got Charlotte, she's got Becky, she's got Naomi. But the way that both women's divisions on Raw and SmackDown have been going, she's going to burn through those pretty quick.
Well, remember, Charlotte and Sasha, I know there was hot potatoing at that belt, but that was a 6-month feud.
Yeah.
Just with those two. And I'll be honest, every single one of those matches was really, really good. So you could have a similar length sort of feud, I think, between Asuka and Charlotte. Maybe not quite Asuka and Becky, but you can still have quite a lengthy one there. Yeah. But I do agree that the way she's been positioned is Charlotte's the only one I would expect who could potentially end her streak.
Yeah.
Which is now longer than Goldberg's. So
that's the thing. I don't think that they are going to end the streak anytime soon. They've put too much into it on NXT. They've kept her in NXT far beyond the time that she should have been. While other talents who should have stayed in NXT as long as Asuka have moved up. There has to be a lot more longevity in the streak, I think.
Bold prediction. She ends the streak in the main event of WrestleMania 35. That's my bold prediction.
Okay. Who?
Possibly Charlotte, after Charlotte has failed on 2 pay-per-views before that. Like, maybe SummerSlam the year before, and then again at Survivor Series. And this is the final one where she takes over. Charlotte's the only one I could see ending that streak eventually. Because you got the Flair name there. So you can sell it on that.
Here's my bold prediction.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Asuka's streak will be ended by somebody who is currently in the Mae Young Classic.
Interesting. Have you watched any of the Mae Young Classic?
I've watched the first episode of it. It's good. I mean, it is what it is. It's women's wrestling, and it's quality women's wrestling. And similar to the Cruiserweight Classic, there's not much story behind it. It's one and done for some of them, so you don't really get to see a few of these women that you have been invested in for long. But yeah, it's entertaining. And I see a lot of talent there that could do very, very well, either in NXT or going straight to Raw and SmackDown.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There we go. One last note on Raw then. Again about women. Sasha lost the belt already.
I didn't really want Alexa to give that belt up at all, but I wonder, it's similar with the New Day, I wonder if they're just trying to pad Sasha's belt count,
Possibly.
building towards eventually putting her back against Charlotte when they are on the same brand again.
Interesting, right. So we talked quite a bit about SmackDown already. We'll go back to talk about a little bit more. Firstly, SmackDown was terrible this week, I thought.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
It was the first time when a fashion file segment fell flat to me as well.
There have been a few that have been slightly disappointed. I don't see where it's going now.
Yeah.
It exists to exist rather than having a purpose that it did before.
Yeah, I agree.
The fact that they didn't get to a main feud resulting from all of the nonsense with the hobby horse and all that kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
That's where it fell flat for me. I'm not sure where it's going.
It's too much of a good thing.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Now, there's a photograph doing the rounds from SmackDown this week, which looked like the non-TV side of the stadium was pretty much entirely empty.
Really? I have not seen that.
Yeah, so it's on Twitter. Check it out. I'm sure you'll be able to find it quite easily. But it is interesting. I do think that having the main belt on Jinder hurts the entire brand. Even with AJ Styles on there and Kevin Owens on there and Shinsuke Nakamura on there, I think Jinder really does take some of the shine off the SmackDown as a whole.
I don't necessarily have a problem with Jinder as WWE champion. It was time for him to lose it, for sure. But he's been a good heel. He's been that classic, smarmy, not going to win legitimately heel. It worked for that period, but yeah, now it's time to move on, for sure.
I agree. I don't think I have a problem with him having been champion. I think I do have the problem with him still being champion.
Yeah.
Hopefully that gets resolved soon, but it's a long time till the next pay-per-view. And
it is. Yeah, I can't even tell you when it is.
It's early October, and it is Hell in a Cell.
Okay.
Who do you reckon will main event that? Do you think it'll be Shinsuke Jinder?
Shane and Owens?
I hope that's not the main event.
I think that might be the Hell in a Cell match.
You see, you've got the justification for it in terms of keeping the Sings out, but then again, you just had the Punjabi prison, so that's 2 cage-style matches for Jinder in a row, which might be too much.
Also depends what happens with Rusev and whether he's still there and if they are going to stop.
Rusev Jinder could be interesting.
Rusev Jinder could be very interesting. Who would you turn Rusev face for that?
Yeah, I'd turn Rusev face. There were rumors back in May that they were looking to turn him face.
Yeah.
I think Jinder is the kind of guy you can turn a face against.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, they've if you're going to turn Rusev face, it needs to be somebody like Jinder who also isn't American. You can't really turn Rusev face against an American.
Not easily. No.
Difficult.
There's a great line from Naomi that she would turn Carmella into the Corbin of the women's division.
Yeah, that made it good.
But that division does feel a little bit lost. Obviously, Charlotte, for obvious reasons, is not on TV right now, but I do think her absence is very noticeable.
It is very noticeable. And as long as Ric Flair pulls through, which we're all hoping for.
And it sounds positive on that.
Yeah, it does.
He is, so.
Yeah. But I think the absence is actually going to help Charlotte. Having been away for a little while, she can come back stronger. She's got that. She has the reason for being missing. She's going to come back and reclaim her division, I think. And going into a feud with Natalya, if she's still got the belt at the time, that works. And it could be a really interesting way to have Carmella cash in. You build it as, I deserve the title. I've been through all this nonsense with my dad, and the division's been stale without me. I'm going to come back, reclaim my belt, and that's going to be the new era of women's wrestling on SmackDown. And Carmella cashed in.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. Kevin Owens deciding to insert himself as a referee in a match.
Love it.
Absolutely amazing.
Love it.
I hope he does this for weeks on end.
Yeah. He just decides, I'm going to be the referee for this match. I hope it's more at the beginning of the match rather than just coming and kicking out the referee. I hope it's, the two guys in the ring. There is no refereeing because Kevin Owens has decided upon himself that he's the referee for the match. Makes a big deal out of slowly coming to the ring, putting on the...
Yeah, I think there's potential comedy gold there. And, good storyline development if they want to stick with it. It was the best thing on SmackDown this week.
For sure. Yeah. And I think they are building to a feud with Shane McMahon. And so, as well as interjecting himself as an official, what other ways can Kevin find to get under Shane's skin until he finally snaps and says, all right, I want you in the ring?
Now, I've heard rumours of Team Shane versus Team KO for Survivor Series.
Okay.
I could get on board with that.
As long as it then culminates in a one-on-one feud afterwards, yeah, I can live with that. The Survivor Series, for me, I really want it to be a Raw versus SmackDown.
The problem with it last year was it didn't really feel like there was any stakes to that.
No. It was too soon after the brand split.
Possibly,
last year. They weren't established enough, and it was very clear that SmackDown was the better brand then. But now that both are swimming in the waters of mediocrity, maybe they could be a bit more on the line. Maybe a certain superstar
potentially
moving.
Could be the entire team. Like 5-on-5, and the losing 5 have to join the winning 5's brand.
Possibly that could work.
Who knows? But that's in November, so
we've got a while.
We'll talk about it more then. 205 Live got a new addition to their roster.
Yeah, I love that too. I don't think many people do, but I really like Enzo on 205 Live.
Justify that like.
I don't think they've moved Enzo for the right reasons, but accidentally WWE have created more buzz in 205 Live as a brand. The wrestling quality has been there throughout.
No question.
What wasn't there was the eyeball on the brand. And like him or hate him, Enzo brings eyeballs to 205 Live now. And people will come for Enzo, but they'll stay when they see the quality of the wrestling. Once you watch 205 Live for a few weeks, it hooks you. And I think 205 Live was the better of the three shows this week, for sure. The match between Brian Kendrick and Jack Gallagher. Yeah. Wow. It had everything.
Yeah.
It was a very short match, but it had everything.
I do think the cruiserweights haven't been handled well at all.
No.
And I think it is a real shame. I think I'd like to see more stars being moved to 205 Live. I'll be honest, if they're not going to put Finn Balor together with Gallows and Anderson, put him on 205 Live.
They might as well at this point. And it needs to be more of an equal footing with the main roster. The cruiserweight title needs to be a cruiserweight world title to go alongside the heavyweight world titles that they've got. The question is whether they'll do that. I don't think they are going to make that kind of effort, not while they're putting the cruiserweight title match on the pre-show every single pay-per-view. They had the chance to make something of it when they had the caliber of Austin Aries on there. They squandered that. It's the cynical side of me, but I feel like WWE are putting this cruiserweight division out there so they can say, we tried it didn't work, shut your mouths, rather than actually putting something behind it so that we'll create something good.
I think you got to go one of two ways, which is either commit to it and move guys like Finn Balor to the division, give it a bit more star power, a bit more credibility.
Yeah.
Or just disband it. I think this halfway house, a lot of those guys could go to NXT and have a lot of success. So either do that, use that talent in other products, and just forget 205 Live, or really commit to it and put some star power on there.
Yeah. And this is another article that I wrote for RealSport a few months ago. What can they do? And I really think that 205 Live needs more stake to fight for. And the cruiserweight tag team division, I think, is the key way to do that. Two things that would make 205 Live 100 times better. Cruiserweight tag team titles and some kind of authority figure to actually bring the feuds together. And then some more talent wouldn't hurt.
Absolutely. Excellent. So at this point, I'm going to firstly plug the website, realsport101.com. Plenty of fantastic wrestling articles there. So definitely make sure you check it out. We're going to have... excuse me. Worst time to get a cough. We are going to have an exclusive interview published later this week with none other than Diamond Dallas Page. It was an awesome interview. There's some really good stuff in there. Talked a lot about his post-wrestling career with the yoga, with the stuff he's been doing, the resurrection of Jake the Snake and all those sort of things. Talked about his in-ring stuff as well. I think the interview came to like 7,000 words or something.
Nice.
So yeah, proper in-depth interview.
And he doesn't interview much either, does he?
No, he doesn't. So, it's a real
coup.
Absolutely. So definitely make sure you check it out. It'll probably be up on Friday. So definitely check out on realsport101.com our exclusive interview with Diamond Dallas Page. Got about 5 minutes left. I want to talk about Impact. You've recently started watching Impact.
Yeah. What's
your impressions of it?
It's got its good points. It's a little bit stuck in the 1980s. And I think that is down to who they've got writing. The conference calls every week I've been doing, it's given me a little bit of an insight into how things are working in GFW at the moment in terms of television and how they're doing it. It sounds like there are too many cooks in the kitchen writing-wise, rather than somebody really having that creative idea and taking it forward. I think that it's gone to committee too much. It gets watered down and watered down and watered down until we see something that's not quite as entertaining as it could be on television.
It's frustrating because they have such a talented roster.
Yeah. I mean, then they've had some bad luck as well.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they handled the Alberto Albatron situation as well as they could. I'm not sure that they've handled whatever has gone on with Low-Key as well as they could. And they have made a good decision in who they've put the belt on now.
Yeah.
I was concerned watching it that it was going to go to Johnny Impact and they were going to continue the old TNA trend of put it on the guy that's just walked through the door. So there are definitely good points about Impact. They've got a lot of work to do and they need to stop taping 20,000 shows in advance.
So they just finished TV tapings for the next 12 episodes, which is the longest set of tapings they've ever done. And it's a real problem. The problem they have compared to NXT is not everyone needs to be on NXT every week.
Yes.
Meaning that every set of TV tapings, wrestlers can wrestle less matches and therefore be more energized for those matches. Impact needs, and it does need, to put its stars up each and every week in order to get the viewing figures.
Yeah.
As a result, they're working a lot of matches in a short period of time, and you can tell they're not working at the rate they could do.
No, and you can't blame them either.
No.
If you knew that if you were a main event guy and you had to work 12 matches in a session, you wouldn't put everything into every match. And it's disappointing when those last 2 or 3 are the ones that you would really want quality matches in to get people to tune into their big events. Where are we going next? Bound for Glory next, I suppose, is it? Okay. Yeah. So
exactly.
And they taped all the way up to Bound for Glory.
All the way up to that. So the last few episodes leading up to their biggest show of the year is going to be. They might be a little bit tired.
Yeah, and that's their problem.
Now there are some advantages there. We recently interviewed Matt Sydal, another great interview. You might know him as Evan Bourne from WWE, and he said in the last episode that they taped in the lead up to Destination X, he dislocated his shoulder. But because that was 6 weeks before the live show, he could fully heal so that he could still take part in Destination X, even though in the episode the week before, he dislocated his shoulder. So you do have that.
I'm not sure that's enough to justify it personally.
It's definitely not.
And the other thing is, I'm not sure how you feel about it, but I don't think that crowd in Florida really do them favors. And it mainly comes down to their noise. I think they just turned up a bit too loud. And I'm not sure if they can do anything about it, that it's quite a small venue. But to be able to hear individual people making smarky comments.
Yeah, not always good. And I wonder if part of the reason that was so loud is because, again, the audience are there for a lot of shows at a time. They're going to get quieter as it goes on. So if you set the levels high, who knows, maybe that's got something to do with it. But yeah, they are definitely held back by the taping format. But it's also too expensive to do it live every week. So I think they do need to do less shows taping at one time.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have a problem with a taped show, especially when they are trying to cut costs at the moment. They need to really put some money in the bank. But they are touring again. There is no harm in having a set of cameras there to record bits of that. When you look at some of the, I don't know if you've seen the One Night Only, that looking back at all of the older GFW.
I saw bits of it, yeah.
So most of that is taped house shows, basically.
Yeah.
But it had a kind of nice late 90s, early 2000s gritty feel to it. It worked.
It did, yeah.
There's no harm in having a bit of the taped segments from Orlando, and then, let's throw over to this match from our house show at blah, blah, blah. Promotes the live shows, gives them a chance to maybe do a few title changes on the road, get people going to their live events again, because I know that their recent tour in New York didn't do very well. And they just need to build momentum.
Yeah.
And they're not going to do that 12-week tapings at a time.
No, definitely not. We've got a question. Who should challenge Eli Drake?
I want to say Lashley, but they're taking him in a... I haven't read the spoilers for the tape, but they seem to be taking him in a strange
very strange direction. We know Matt Sydal has the right to challenge for a championship, so that could be the World Championship.
I think it needs to be the X Division Championship to give that belt more credibility again. For someone like Matt Sydal to turn around and say, I could go for the world title and I'd have every opportunity of winning the world title, but I'd want the X Division title. That means more to me. I think that works better for Matt Sydal and for the belt. The reason I say Lashley for Eli Drake is this is his first time as a world champion. He needs to face some people who have been world champion in that company. Lashley seems the obvious choice, first of all. There aren't that many former TNA GFW world champions left in the company now.
Well, we don't officially know what's happening with Del Rio, but El Patron, we assume he's gone. It might just be Lashley and Eddie Edwards.
Yeah.
So,
Lashley seems the obvious choice just for that first feud, and then put some of the newer guys, or not new to GFW, but...
But you can imagine Johnny Impact's going to get his turn sooner rather than later.
Yeah, he will. And it wouldn't necessarily be a problem a few months down the line for him to win that championship. There are going to be a lot of people tuning in to see him.
Yeah.
And he's been doing good work.
And I'm absolutely fine with him having a title opportunity early on if he loses.
Yeah.
But whether or not GFW can resist the temptation to put it on their shiny new star, who knows?
Yeah. And I think Eli Drake needs to keep it for a little while. There have been a quick succession of title changes for one reason or another in GFW. So give Eli Drake that chance to take the ball and run with it and see how he does. He's at least got it for 12 weeks, right?
Yeah. Well, in theory, we don't even know that.
So the tapings, but you'd assume he does.
So on that note, I think we are going to end the show there. Thank you very much for joining us this week, Jeremy.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for joining us, our viewers out there. And we should be back same time next week. Cheers.